Welcome to episode 1 of Behind the Scenes Music, June 13th, 2019. Today we're going to talk about Christina Grimes, a voice contestant who was gunned down in a club, and Dimebag Darrell, who was also gunned down in a club, and the lack of training or security at these clubs. On December 8th, 2004, Dimebag Darrell was performing at the Alrosa Via nightclub in Ohio. As the band played the first song of its setlist, Nathan Grail, the Rage fan, rushed onto the stage and shot Darrell multiple times with a Beretta. The band's head of security, Jeffrey Thompson, nicknamed Mayhem, tackled Gale, but he was shot in the struggle. A fan, Nathan Bray, was also shot as he attempted to aid Darrell and Thompson. Eric Haupt was an employee of the venue and tried to disarm Gale. 3 others were wounded before the police got there and shot him dead. Abbott was pronounced dead at the scene at age 38. Dimebag Darrell. Now, in 2004, it wasn't that big of a deal with security and everything. People weren't worried, but as time goes on, you need to step up your security game, especially in these clubs and music venues all around the world. Needs to change. As everyone should know, Dimebag Darrell played with Pantera for a while. I hope I said that right. Pantera, not Pantora. This is our first podcast, so we're still working out the kinks in the studio. Gonna have cameras set up soon in the studio, so when we have guests in, we'll be able to see everything and put faces to the names. I've been into music since 2002. Working at venues. I've worked with a lot of great people who taught me a lot of stuff. I want to give a shout out to Chris Lohr, Brandon Berry, Bob Shenfield, these guys, and Doug King. These guys taught me a lot in the music industry. Chris Lohr was my first boss in the music industry. He taught me a lot about backstage, doing maintenance, flipping rooms for artists, security. We did that. We would stop fights. We would catch people sneaking in during shows. We did a lot of 24 hours straight. I think he worked some 48 hours straight shows, back-to-back shows where you had to flip the venue. That was a lot of fun. We had a great crew back then. It was Chris, Marcel Pinto, and myself. And we had an operations manager come in, Brandon Berry. He has moved on from different venues. He's still with the company. He's doing very, very well. Wish him all the success in the world. The rest of us kind of got out of it, but I'm still semi in it, working shows when I can. Our security at the venue we worked at had bag check and officers at the gates to search everyone. We never had a problem. The most problems we had were people jumping fences and climbing up on the stage, trying to get up on the stage. We had one guy during a Velvet Revolver show knock one of our security guys down at front of stage and jump on the stage and start climbing the light rigging. I ended up going up after him and bringing him down, and took him over to the police officers that were working, and he got arrested. The production manager pressed charges on that guy. We never had to worry about anybody getting shot or anything at the venue we worked at because security was so tight. We never had that in our head at all. And then there's Bob Shenfield and Doug King. Bob and Mike from Decibel Sound and Lighting showed me the boards on how to run sound front of house, side of stage. They taught me a lot, and I really appreciate that, and I'm still in touch with Bob today. Mike has passed away, unfortunately, the owner of Decibels. Bob's still running it with Mike's wife. And then there's Doug King from King Lighting in Tampa. He showed me all about the lights, how to run a light system from the stage. I can honestly say Doug King showed me a lot with the light systems, and back then they had the can lights, and we were doing an event and their light tech didn't show up, and they told me get up on stage and run the lights for an event. And I jumped up there, and I can honestly say I ran the lighting system for a 20,000 seat venue. I had a blast doing that. It was really fun. But let's get back into the security aspect of stuff, and we'll talk about Christina Grimmie from The Voice, who was murdered 3 years ago in Orlando. Christina was a contestant on The Voice, and she was playing at an event at the Plaza Live. That's the name of the venue in Orlando on June 10th, 2016. She opened up her arms for a meet and greet, and opened up her arms to give a guy a hug, and he shot her in the chest and in the head. And security was more worried about food and drinks being smuggled in than catching somebody with some guns. I know music venues and stuff are worried about their sales for their liquor and their food and everything, but they need to worry more about what kind of weapons are being brought in, because it's just a senseless act. Nobody needs to deal with that kind of stuff. All these venues, no matter how big or how small, need to put in metal detectors, because a life is worth more than any amount of money to spend for a metal detector, in my opinion. Metal detectors need to be put up, or give people wands. Train them how to use the wands to scan people if you don't want to buy metal detectors or rent them. These shootings aren't going to stop until people wake up and do something about entrances to venues and clubs and events where there's people performing, because as we've seen, everywhere is a target. It doesn't matter how big or small the venue is, it can be a target. They just need to step up their security game. Everyone. And they need to hire more security. The more they see security, the less they're going to think about doing something. I want to know what your thoughts are on the subject of security at venues today. Do you think there's enough? Do they need more? What could they do to make it better? Pulse nightclub was another one. That was considered a terrorist attack. And if they would have had security outside as like police officers or something at the doors, this might have never happened. And it's very, very sad that it did. The difference between up north And down here in Florida, the security, you can see the difference in security. Florida has a lot at different places now in 2019. Up north, they're still lacking in security up there. This is going to be a short podcast. This is only going to be 15 minutes. This one is our first one. Our next one will be 30, and then after that, an hour-long podcast. So, again, thoughts on what we could do better, what we could do different security-wise at venues, what you think changes should be made. So we're gonna get off here in a minute or two, but don't forget, hit the subscribe button and it'll keep you in the loop. Check out our Facebook page, Behind the Scenes of a Music Venue. Maybe I'll get one of these guys that I talked about earlier that I used to work with on the show. It'd be cool to have one of those guys on. We could tell some stories about what we used to do and what it took to get everything going for the day of a show. And how hard it was working back-to-back shows, 24 hours straight. Or as in my buddy Chris's thing, 48 hours straight. He was just a beast when it came to that stuff. Let me add, he did work a show with a torn rotator cuff. And yes, we did move those tanks, Chris. And don't forget Gear Fest, June 21st, 22nd. Coming up next week in Fort Wayne, Indiana, for all your gear, live sound, lighting, everything, all your needs. It's free to register to go. Free ticket to get in. Check it out on sweetwater.com. And there'll be a link in there. There's also a link in our Facebook page if you want to sign up and go to GearFest and learn about all the new sound and lighting gear for 2019. And I want to thank Mark over at Sweetwater for the invite to go to GearFest this year. I don't know if I'll be able to make it, but you never know. They're going to have a lot of speakers over at GearFest. The owner of Chevette Lights, PreSonus, Chevette Lighting, JBL, everybody's going to be there. Once again, check out our Facebook page for the link to GearFest. One of the guest speakers for GearFest is going to be Sylvia Massey, producer and engineer for Tool and System of a Down. She's a great lady. And Sweetwater Guitar Workshop. They're going to be doing repairs, mods, and setups. And Tim Pierce, he's a guitarist for Rick Springfield and Rascal Flatts. So, we will see you on the next podcast. Thanks for tuning in and supporting us. Remember, hit that subscribe button. Maybe I'll see you at GearFest and we'll go live and do a podcast live and get some of those interviews from them. Have a good day, guys.